Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. All righty, folks. Welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We are bellowing up to the bar today. The signs are on. We're open. We've got an interesting guest with us tonight. He is a adventurer, entrepreneur, half superhero. Spends his days telling generals what to do, and is willing to sit down and hang out with us at the bar. We have with us today the I'm calling you an entrepreneur because that's what you are. You're an entrepreneur.
That's perfect.
The entrepreneur himself, Mr. Taylor Cole. Look at that. You got your first applause of the day.
Yeah, that was great.
You know, we do our best to get it out there. Brother, welcome to the bar. We love having you here. Where are you at right now? Because I see a sled in the background.
Yeah, I'm up in Crestline, California. I would have been outside, except it's starting to get dark, so it's mountains over here.
Oh, so you're up in, is that like, what do they call that? The Green Valley? Is that up in that way?
No, it's near Riverside, Inland Empire, except it's up in the San Bernardino Forest. And yeah, I love it up here. So yeah, we get to go sledding most days, so it's pretty awesome.
Well, you guys just had like the biggest, what was it? Lake Tahoe had like the biggest snowfall in like 50 years or something like that.
Yeah, they did. We got maybe 8 inches 2 weeks ago, and it really disturbed a bunch of stuff. But we'll be getting a couple, probably 4 feet every year. Something
That's
about
not bad.
No, it's not too bad.
Nah, you know, that's the East Coast. I'm up in Albany, so you know we're in that same realm. Before it's all over with, we'll have some crazy freak storm that dumps 25 inches of snow, and we're all going, "This is bullshit."
Yeah.
This is
that was me in Rhode Island, right up there against Quidnick Bay, and yeah, we just got slammed for a while and no school, and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay at home.
Well, that's a whole nother thing with no school. I really thought that my kids were going to end up this year with like no snow days. And we're going to get into doing the housekeeping here in a minute, right, folks. But I really thought we were going to have like no snow days because they figured out that these kids could do snow days remote. And then the teachers were like, nah, like I'm in my eternal senior year. I still think all teachers are in their eternal senior year, but that's a whole nother subject where I get dirty looks for it. But, that's me. So before we get into it, folks, as always, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping. So the first thing for today, our prior guest and big supporter, Mr. Doug Smythe of Phoenix Shaving, went and sent us a sticker this time around. His Bay Rum Classico. We were just talking beforehand, Taylor and I. If you haven't listened to our episode, it's an earlier episode. I don't even know what the number is on it. That when Doug was on and he talks his theory on why Gillette added blades and everything. Go listen to that. It is mind-boggling. And then when you realize that it's one of the few conspiracies you will ever hear where you're like, oh no, that really makes a lot of sense. Like, no, that's marketing. That all makes perfect sense. Like, you need an extra blade on there. It's phenomenal. And I'm a big Bay Rum fan. I love that smell. And his stuff, especially for those of us with beards. You would think a guy who owns a shaving club wouldn't have like great beard stuff, but he has phenomenal beard stuff, men's grooming. So make sure you check out Doug. We're going to put the sticker up here on the board. The other thing is as always, if your media is looking for that upgrade, you like my palm tree? Thank you, Cody. I haven't seen you in a while. Miss Cody liking the palm trees on my shirt. My wife always picks out the best shirts for me. But if your media needs an upgrade, and Taylor will even tell you, because Taylor knows all about this, you need to reach out to Dibble and check out Media by Dibs. You mentioned Belly Up to the Bar. He's going to give you a 10% discount on your first order from him and a free consultation. Once again, that's Media by Dibs. Your opportunity for anything you need. I don't care what it is, whether you've got a podcast, whether you've got a company you're starting, whatever it is you're doing. If you're ready for a logo, you're ready for your media to be upgraded, make sure you reach out to Media by Dibs. That's at Media by Dibs on all your social media platforms. Or if you're on LinkedIn, it's Andrew Dibble, Dibble. All right. Now it's our turn, Taylor. All the house
Yes.
cleaning is done. So why don't you tell everyone, like I gave a lot of like background on you. So when you describe yourself to someone or you introduce yourself to someone, how do you normally introduce yourself other than hi, my name's Taylor?
It just depends. Like I've always my entire life enjoyed being on the two farthest extremes, like I like to a good example I give, I graduated valedictorian in high school, but then I had 60 hours community service. So I like I went to the Naval Academy, but I dropped out. I really like just being on both sides. So it depends. I'm a good listener. I'm a good I like to read crowds. I like to understand who I'm talking to, and then I play it, one way or the other. And it's never off from who I am, but it could be anywhere. I could be talking about just most topics.
Well, that's the thing. Like and I'll give the story that it was explained to me. Dibs says, "Hey, you got to talk to this guy Taylor." I'm like, okay. And real quick, Cody, we all saw the pictures of your car off in the ditch. I've never smiled that much when anything has happened to me like that. And she was very happy, and we're glad you were safe. She ran
Yeah.
her car right off into a ditch on one of the first icy days. Uh, but yeah, so Dibs is like, Murph, you got to talk to this guy. He's been on the show Wipeout, which I definitely want to hear about. He does base jumping, and if for those of you that don't know what base jumping is, that's basically kind of like standing on standing on a cliff or on the side of a building. And I feel like it was big in like the late 90s, early 2000s, where you would see videos of guys like jumping off of a building, flicking a parachute out, and seeing if they could hit the ground and jump into a car before the police arrested them.
Yep.
Does that sound about right?
That's pretty much right.
He's like, the guy does all this, and then he briefs generals on how to find or how to detect where IEDs are at.
Yeah, you got to do both.
I'm like, what? Say this. I'm like, Dibs, say this again. Explain this to me one more time. And he explains it to me one more time. And if you know Dibs, he gets creative. He's like, he might even base jump naked, but I'm not sure. I'm like, well, I don't. Do you think?
Yep.
I was like, wait, you have?
Yeah.
No, hold on. I thought Dibs was making that shit up.
No, he's not even telling half the story. So, yeah, I used to run these parties out in Riverside for, I don't know, 10 years that were called mustache boogies. And so we took a cliff, 180-foot cliff, and I started bringing out a kiddie pool, and we'd fill it up. It started off a pretty small kiddie pool, and then it ended up being a 2,500-gallon pool. I'd work with the city on why I needed a water truck and how I was getting the water out there, and then all of a sudden we'd have a party, and I had to hire a midget, a friend of mine, to come out and be our judge. And some days he'd be grumpy and I'd pay him less, and other days he'd be cheerful and I'd pay him more. And we'd figure out how to have a contest where you have to land in the kiddie pool, you have to land on the slip and slide, take out the bowling pins, and you're graded on how cool you do it and what you're doing. And so it gets crazy. You get bonus points for being naked. You for sure get points for wearing a cutoff flannel shirt and a mustache. And you get bonus points for wearing a Speedo. You get bonus points for a lot of different things. Beer helmet. But yeah.
I will have to introduce you to my buddies at Talking Beards. So they're all competitive. They're competitive beard guys, like which they're incredible. I have to introduce you to them because I would like to see Scott Sakura base jump naked with this big long beard of his. His beard's like 2 feet long, and just see how that works out for him. This is hilarious. Like,
awesome.
So Dibs wasn't even kidding. Like, I honestly thought he was full of shit. He was just like trying to over exaggerate.
No, he's probably under exaggerating. It's been a
God.
crazy go. Oh yeah, he mentions naked versus naked. This is a rule that I had for a long time. So yeah, if you go naked, NAKED, you're looking at fully nude. That means no helmet. That means no boots, no pads. But if you're naked, the way that I pronounce it, being family from West Virginia, and I just kind of get lazy on the word, that's boots and helmet. So I've jumped naked with the NEKED quite a bit.
And trying to land into a pool or onto a slip and
Pool
slide.
or slip and slide or downtown LA or wherever you got wherever you need boots and a
Oh,
helmet.
wait a sec. So you've naked base jumped in LA? Like, are the statute
Yeah,
limitations up on that? Are we good? I think we're good.
yeah, we're good. Yeah, we have fun just doing what's called getting base. Building antenna span Earth. As many ways as you can. So there's night base, there's day base. That's actually even harder to do. And then there's chicken base, which means you're walking off of objects that you want to jump on. Maybe the winds are bad. Maybe your nerves are getting to you. And then there's naked base. So yeah, I've got naked base. I've got
That's incredible.
chicken base.
Well, hopefully the parachute works and you don't become chicken stock. So
no, I agree. That would not be good at all. I need a beer to that one.
oh God, that's hilarious. So how do we go from? So well, let me ask this first: does this still go on, or is that those days behind you?
Those are behind me. They built houses all the way up to the cliff, and we lost it that way. But man, we had such good times, and I'd work with the police and I would work with everybody I could to get this 300 200 person party to go off all the time. There's a while we were doing them weekly, so
Holy
it's
shit!
just yeah, people would make big flamethrowers. I have a picture of like a 150-foot flamethrower going in there, a police helicopter coming in. Nobody got arrested. We just talk our way out of it and just keep
Well,
going.
it sounds
So
like you worked with them, so it wasn't like they didn't know you were there. They didn't know what was going on. It wasn't
no,
unsupervised. That's where I think that's where people get themselves in trouble. Is they try to do shit like that and they do it undercover brother style, and people are like, "You didn't invite me."
yeah,
Now I have to be mad at you, and now I have to cause problems. So
yeah.
we're doing this during all this. What I got to ask about Wipeout, because we've all seen the show, and for those of you, I got to say we've all seen it. But if you've never seen Wipeout, it's kind of
You
like
have to watch it.
you have to watch this. The best way I would describe it is like the American version, like the watered down American version of a Japanese game show.
MXC.
Yes,
Yep.
and it's the American version where grown folk just basically take ass whoopings for like $50 and a McDonald's gift card.
Yep.
Like there's not much
I got
to it.
$30 in gas money. So I'm not kidding. That's exactly what I got to get second place on that show.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
no, I got invited on because I was flying wingsuits back in 2008 off cliffs, and a couple of my videos got out, and so they invited me, and then everybody else had to go stand in line at Disneyland or all these other places to get on the show, and yeah, so I basically got on the show wearing a wingsuit, and then when I showed up the first day up in Santa Clarita, it was funny. I was sitting in the back talking to this female contestant, and her thing was she walked across the country hitchhiking and eating out of trash cans. And so her and I were friends for a good, I don't know, 5 years after it. But I was sitting wearing these super tiny shorts and one of my Mustache Boogie shirts, cut off flannel shirt. And the guy that owns Simpsons and Wipeout at the time, he comes in and he's like, there's this guy in the front that's just talking a bunch of shit, and he's like, I'm gonna beat you all, like I'm gonna take you guys all down. And this guy stands there and he says, hey, you probably should be quiet. Like, I'd be worried about the quiet guy in the back named Taylor. And he goes, hey, Taylor, you're not wearing that outfit. Hey, get him a wardrobe change.
Oh, so they didn't let you wear it.
Nope. So they dressed me. I guess it didn't fit the storyline for me to be like the ridiculous looking guy. So.
Oh, that's so great. You have Gianni's saying hey to you.
Oh, yeah.
That's so great. So you finished second on Wipeout.
Yep. Everything that hits you is hard. Everything you jump off of is soft. Everything you land on is slippery. Everybody ended up in the hospital, in the ambulance.
No shit.
So yeah, the longer you got on the show, everybody was bursting eardrums. We told each other
Hold on, how are you bursting eardrums?
Because we all talked about it before, and we're like, please don't let us have one of those hanging ones. Like if you watch a show enough, you'll realize sometimes they have you hanging from a like a ski rope. and it
Right.
always ends up bad because you have no choice where your body's going. And of course we had that one. So when you get taken
Oh,
out hanging from a ski rope, I dislocated an elbow. You end up just hitting the water super hard from 20 feet,
oh
totally the wrong
shit.
direction.
I had
It was
no
brutal.
idea.
It was brutal, but I would do it again. It was super fun. I think I could take a beating.
Wow. Oh God, here's Nathan's back, folks. Nathan sounds like an idea of a good man. Nathan, you've never seen a plate you didn't like. Don't start with me. And Gianni, would you ever do the Stone Cold Steve Austin Broken Skull Challenge? I don't even know what
No,
that is. What is
no,
that?
I
I know
don't
who
even
Stone
know. But
Cold is.
any of those things, I don't want anything to do with.
What the hell is? Somebody tell me what that is.
Yeah, I want to see it too. We need to
I
both
have
see that.
I have no idea. S- Stone Stone Cold. I'm googling that right now. Uh, Stone Cold Steve Austin Broken
Skull challenge.
Skulls. There's a Broken Skull session. Also, it's a TV show. So
If it
he has
takes some
his own.
skill, maybe.
No, oh, so okay, I get it. It says one of the greatest, most influential superstars in WWE history, Stone Cold. Blah blah blah. Legend. Talk high lows, sports entertainment memories, road stories. Okay, so it's basically his he goes on the road and talks
Probably
with
teaches wrestling skills.
he like talks with wrestlers and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah.
I Gianni, I'm a wrestling fan, but I don't know that one. Like I've
And
never
you call
watched that.
yourself a wrestling fan.
I'm I I am. You got me here. I've never seen this. What channel is it? But this seems like some bro, it's on the Peacock channel. Like, give
There
me
you
a
go.
break. Give me a break. Like, it's not like this is coming on regular TV. Like this shit's on the Peacock channel. Oh, it's different. Oh, he says it's different. I have to look it up because the sessions thing sounds really cool. Because I was looking like he was talking to like one of the Hardy Boys, Seth Rollins. My kids love Seth Rollins, so that's another one. Like you've done all this stuff. Have you ever done pro wrestling? I feel like
No.
that's what you're missing.
No, right now I'm trying to learn a standing backflip. I'm 41 and I'm pretty broken. I've had a lot of surgeries and whatnot, and so I'm trying to learn to stand backflip. So I'm pretty close.
41 and still working
Dibs,
on a
that's right.
stand.
That's Tessa's sled, and we've been crushing that thing. It's awesome. I
I
have a
could
10-year-old
never.
that's mini me.
Uh, I'll have to check that one out. I'll look it up because I like all those shows. I definitely
Yep.
like all those shows, all those wrestling shows. I'll have to check it out. My little guy has an Ultimate Warrior that I got him.
Oh,
Like
that was my favorite. I had the what was it, pillow doll.
yes,
Oh, so great.
I recently
Man,
sat down and watched the.
he's probably a wreck now.
He's dead. Well, he's dead.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he died. He like the day. I think it was the day after his Hall of Fame inductions. He passed away.
Wow.
And we actually are getting that was the WWE Hall of Fame here in Albany. It was just signed that we're getting the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame is going to be here in Albany.
Nice.
And we've had some like very historic matches. And those guys have been on the show. I'm good buddies with with the treasurer for that group. It's really, yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Gianni says he passed away 7 years ago. I knew it was right after his inductions. Good job, Tessa. I thought you were going to die like 4 times.
That's my
That's
kid.
your dog. I was about to say that's your dog. Is she a wild child like you?
Yeah, she learned at 9 to ride a unicycle, so she rides her
That's
unicycle
awesome.
everywhere. So yeah, she's going paragliding in a couple weeks. Yeah, she's fun.
Are you going to get her one of those power unicycles? You know what I'm talking about, the unicycle thing.
I just love unicycling. I own 7 of them now, so it's I just unicycle all the time too. Tall ones, short ones, off-road ones.
I've seen the unicycle. Now is that the power thing? The off-road?
No, mine's just a off-road unicycle, and I take it all the time out here.
See, I could see you now as we're talking. I could see you getting one of those power ones that like people wear
everybody
the motorcycle suits. They look pretty cool.
They do, and people are hitting huge jumps now. So
yeah, I couldn't stand on a pogo ball. You remember pogo balls? I just about busted my ass on a pogo ball. I was never that guy.
That's funny. Yeah.
There you go. He wants you to base jump with the unicycle.
Oh yeah, no, I have twice. I think he might have even been there for one of them.
What?
Yeah, I tried to
Like,
land on him. Yeah, I hate telling these stories because I end up, one friend or somebody from my family watches it, gets embarrassed. But yeah, I had to get stitches in my taint because I sat on the pedal. I used to tell my friends, I was like, an injury is an injury. It doesn't matter where it happens. Like, you don't make
oh,
fun of somebody because they broke an arm,
oh.
and I got stitches in a taint, and then eventually we'll get into mental health, and it's the same thing. You don't make fun of people.
Oh, oh God, you had to get stitches in your taint. Oh, that's
I
so
know.
horrible.
I know.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
I'm
that's
luckily the type of guy that can take it, so it's all right. Like the
oh, you can
the
take it in the taint.
mockery well, yeah, well, that is, yeah, that's true. But I mean, I could take the laughing from people and the
Oh, that's
nonstop
great.
bickering and stuff, saying, "Oh yeah." So
So, so you, so now you're doing all these things, and I want to get into the other side to this, which is like,
the education side.
right. Uh, yeah, yes, I will mock you. Have no doubt about it. That's my job, is to mock people. I do very well at it. But so now the other side to it is you're a highly educated man.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest with, like, and I know that's probably that's a stereotype type statement to say, well, a guy who's willing to do all these things, he has nothing to live for. He's an imbecile,
Yeah, if
who
you
would
asked
do these
everybody to
kind of things.
draw a picture of the guy you talked to so far,
Right.
everybody would draw the exact same guys on
Right.
drugs.
Eh,
He lives with his mom.
right. It would look like the movie Point Break.
Hmm.
It would be like a Point Break type character. And if you don't know what that movie is, I'm probably too
Amazing.
old of a show for you. I might be too old of a show for you, or you just need to go watch the movie and then you're fine. But go watch Point Break. You can even do like the scene in your backyard with your airsoft gun and be like,
Oh yeah.
no, where he just
Yeah, that's
shoots
a
off into the air.
classic skydiving.
Love that
It was a
movie.
horrible skydiving scene, but it's classic in skydiving.
Yeah. So that's the other side to this is you spend your day, and we kind of hinted at it, telling generals what to do. Are you? And please tell me if I'm off base and you can't talk about it. Some
No,
secret
it's fine.
squirrel level shit. Um, Tell people what you do in your regular, what pays the bills for you to be a wild man.
Yeah, so the official thing that the Navy allows me to say is I'm the chief technology officer of one of the Navy labs, in the United States, which is great. How I got there, there's been stuff published by the Navy on this, so I can talk to that. I was running the predictive analysis of human behavior group for the Navy for 8 years. So basically using math to kill, capture, and kill bad guys. That's how I got to know the police in Riverside, because I was helping them with cold cases. I was doing a lot of like numbers type stuff, but I was running all the numbers people that were doing numbers for the Navy. So I've deployed all over the place. I've spent, I don't even know, 20 months out at National Training Center in Fort Irwin in tents, as a civilian. I always wanted to be in the military, so I went to the Naval Academy. I got in, and I was 135 pounds, 6'4" when I got into the Naval Academy. So I was like a stick.
Wow. I was 5'8". I was 5'7.5", 127 pounds when I went to boot camp for the Marine Corps, and I thought
Yeah.
I was little.
No, I
Holy
was like
shit,
a
bro!
stick.
They had to turn you sideways and lost you.
But yeah, I went off and got my master's degree in fluid mechanics. So I wanted to understand how wingsuits flew. So I'm kind of that perfect combination of mathematician and mechanical engineer. And yeah, so for a long time, I trained every single brigade that ever deployed to war during the years 2006 to 2012. And
And
I trained their S2s usually how to do predictive pattern analysis, how to layer their ISR assets in a way that was good, and I think we did a lot of good. A lot of those S2s we lost to war, like two of them that I know of. So it was just a crazy time to be working and just trying your best to help. And I was out at Fort Polk a lot. I was out at National Training Center. I was out at Hodensfeld, Germany a lot, and yeah, just doing our best to train people. And then we ended up being on the offensive side, of course, and so doing a lot of that stuff. So yeah, it was good times.
And for those of you who don't know what an S2 is, if you're in the service, we know exactly what the S2 is. S2 is your intel, folks. So when you're thinking, and so most intel guys are not secret squirrel, I'm sorry, I need to
Math
go away.
types.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
they're
not.
very analytical folks. They, during my first couple of years from 94 through 01, your S2s were the most boring people who hated their jobs because there wasn't shit going on. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing they did was they knew the combination to the special safe that
Yep.
was
And
upstairs.
then IEDs happened.
Right. And then, 9/11 happens and these guys are like thrust into the
Yep.
center of
With
everything.
none of the training.
I'll have to, you know what? I'm going to throw a name at you. And if you say, Murph, I don't know who that is, I'm going to
Yeah.
throw a name at you only because you may actually know a Marine that I put in the Marine Corps. You ever heard the name Caleb Sebra?
Yes. I'd have to give me some time and I'll come back to you on that, but I recognize the name. I think I do.
He spent a lot of his time in Maryland.
I would have ran into him at one of the training centers.
You absolutely would have.
Yeah.
Like, I just always remember, great kid. We still stay in touch with each other on Facebook. I put his brother in the Marine Corps. Great family. Tried to buy his Camaro. I wish I would have bought his Camaro years ago. But
yeah, I
he was
definitely recognize the name. So I may have. I remember most of the names that I worked with.
great kid. God, he was so, and he was one of these kids. He went to Rochester Institute of Technology. I'll never forget that. I didn't even know where the fuck Rochester was. He
Yeah.
goes to RIT, drops out after his first year, comes into my office, cuts a 99 on his ASVAB, and
Yep.
goes, I want to get into Intel. We sent him
Yep.
to Intel. He goes to Meade. He was stationed out of Meade. And I just remember him coming to me one day and going, Gunny, I was working. They said, Zebra, get your stuff together. He got his bags packed. He goes, I went into BWI. And if you've ever been into BWI, that's a
Oh, yeah.
busy airport. I
Yeah,
would put it on that, it's not Atlanta, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, it's not
He goes,
Atlanta, it's not Fort Worth, but it's next level for
yeah,
sure.
He's like, I got into BWI, and he goes, next thing I know, I'm walking through BWI with my rifle and my bags, and got walked out of a door and onto the tarmac to a private plane because it was the CIA that he was going with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I got the Civilian Expeditionary Service Medal and the GWAT medal, and
really,
it was cool to be a civilian. I have two uniforms. I have a Marine uniform and I have an Army uniform in my closet, and I'm allowed to wear them. And
I was going to ask you,
they both say civilian, and on the rank it just says U.S. And the only people that could wear those uniforms are civilians, because I'm a civilian. So, in the war, we got just super gobbledygooked on what is people mistakenly call me a contractor all the time. And I am not a contractor. I'm a GS-15 civilian. So we have the same rank. We take the same oath. Other hand, we just don't have contracts locking us in place.
Right.
But then we're the ones that build the systems, build the weapons, build the ships, build the processes. I spend a lot of time out at TRADOC. Anytime we do something good, we'd put it in TRADOC, and then if I could train less people face to face and get more people trained in doctrine, so we drove hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of doctrine, so that these S2s would end up learning it ahead of time, so we could teach them even more advanced stuff. So it was super.
Are you telling me you were my death by PowerPoint?
Probably. I mean, that's the pain of the. Can I cuss? That's the pain of the fucking Army.
Oh God, that was,
and the Navy.
That sure was on the Country Music Channel. It might have been. It might have been.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. That's painful. Painful.
Oh, I will never forget. Like, I didn't understand what that term meant till I was a Marine, and people were like, "Oh shit, it's death by PowerPoint." And then what's funny is this is a very Marine thing. Is once you understand what a PowerPoint presentation is supposed to be, you look
do
back
it with your eyes closed.
Well, then you look back at everyone who's ever given you one, and you're like, you wrote an entire 15 paragraph order on one slide. It's supposed to be 3 to 5 words.
So now we're going to get the real fun conversation with Taylor. So I figure the whole world is going down the sheeple path, and not because I'm a conspiracy
Not
theorists,
left or
but
right or
because
anything.
not left
Yeah.
or right. I don't mean it political, but sheeple. And what I mean is, I've done some of this analysis myself, and right now we're basically getting disinformed by the same four group of people, and you can imagine them. China, Russia,
Yep.
the Republicans, the Democrats. And because we have so much data that comes into this world, there's only a few entities that can look at the data for us. The Navy can, but we don't share. But you basically have your Facebooks and your Googles and your Twitters, and so they're basically like providing us news and putting us in corners that we stand no chance to get out of. I'm in a corner, and then what makes it even worse is they make it so obvious that you should be thinking what you're thinking, that the other corners are either idiots or they're out to get America, right? And either one doesn't work. And then on top of that, each corner just believes that they're the mass, they're the 90%, but really they're the 25%. And this is the world we live in. So
Mm-hmm.
what's happening is we're just all behaving the same. I mean, maybe in four different ways, but everybody's just getting so used to just going straight, and there's no way around it. So I've told so many friends, go get arrested. Like if I meet someone that is like super, super conservative, and I mean non-politically, like conservative, like they
Just
wake up, they
personally.
brush their teeth, at night. They never miss, a beat on like the things you're supposed to do. They've never broken a law. Go get arrested and just go start feeling what it's like to be on the other side. I am not a sheep. I promise. And I'm not on either side of the politics. I am not ever going to bring up politics in this conversation. So I'm like center, but it's
Funny you say
bad.
that people are like that. My best friend Ken and I, we were talking about, I don't remember how it even came up. And I always reference the Tom Hanks SNL skit where he does Black Jeopardy. Have you ever seen that?
No.
If you ever get a chance to watch Tom Hanks SNL Black
I'll look
Jeopardy,
that up.
it is so absolutely 110% the truth, because as you're watching it, there's these great questions that are asked, and Tom Hanks is playing like this very Appalachian southern border, very atypical stereotype of that person. But every question they ask him uh, is answered in a way that the other contestants on Black Jeopardy, which are Black contestants, answer it and go, yeah, absolutely. And they answer them to where it's like they ask something about the government. He goes, don't never trust the government. And they're like, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
They ask the question. They're like, what can you do with a skinny girl? He goes,
Dude, you're nailing
absolutely
it.
nothing.
You're nailing it.
And it was this whole entire thing. And there was a point at the end of it that made it even funnier. Got to go watch it. It's pretty hilarious. But it's always been one of those skits that made me go, hey, folks, do you realize that you're exactly the same and they're just finding a way to make you think you're different, but you're exactly the same people? So it sounds like a very
You're
similar to what
frustrated
you
at the same things every day. You're mad
absolutely.
at the government for the same things, and you're like, and I work for the government, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's just I think I always tell people, you look back at other times in history and you say, man, that's
See, we started talking about the government and your phone rang.
yeah, and the
That's
government came back. How do I get you back? Hold on a sec. Oh man,
holy
I need to
shit.
turn my phone off.
You're still there. I still got you. We can all still see you.
You can still see me? Okay, perfect. I'll figure out why I can't see you.
See, we're
But
all still seeing you.
yeah, man, the government called and I'm screwed. But yeah, you look back in history and you say, man, it would really suck to live in that time, because man, you had horses and there was, cholera and all this horrible stuff. And I think people are going to look back at our time and they're going to say, wow, can you imagine that you had to live in that time when everybody created so much data and no one had the ability to handle any of the data. And so you ended up with big corporations filtering the data for you. And so that sounds horrible to anybody on either side of the political spectrum. And that's what's happening. And so everybody's getting some picture. I don't know what it is, but it's all being filtered by somebody that's not us. And
that's Spider-Man 2099.
So what I say is go get arrested. Like seriously.
I'm not getting arrested.
Like you
I'm
could
not
do it in
doing it.
a calm way. I mean, you don't have to
I've
like,
been pulled over. I've had enough uncomfortable conversations in my life with people in law enforcement. I'm not getting arrested. I'll be damned.
But now we're back to how I live the way I live. Like I don't mind it. So I could go jump off stuff today, and I can run a company, and I can, there's really no one expects anything from me, and yet I still get jobs, and I still have a job. So
Isn't that great? Well, you're a GS-15. That's, bro, like
it's not
you've
bad.
only got one more step. And then that's completely political right there, your next appointment. And then I had an aunt who was a GS-15 in Social Security. And she used to just say they would offer, because what's the next level called? It's
SES for us, Senior
that's it,
Executive Service.
SES. And she's like, they used to offer her SES stuff all the time. And she was like, no. And they're like, well, why? You're going to make this, that, and the other. She goes,
Anthony, don't get arrested. And I love Anthony. I mentor him. Don't get arrested. Like,
don't do it, Anthony. And you got a cool last
that.
name, Pacheco. I knew a Pacheco.
Yeah, he's in law school and he's rocking it. He doesn't need to get arrested.
Yeah, don't do that. But she used to always say, like, they would offer SES positions, and she'd be like, no, SES is call me to know what they're supposed to be doing. She goes, why would I want to do that? And then basically
I heard a Navy captain tell me once that all the admirals were the guys he beat up in high school. And I was like, that's funny. I mean, I've never beat up anybody, but that's kind of funny. Like, at some point you just start, a much more rude way of saying this, but yeah, you just start playing by the rules.
It's absolutely the truth. When you start realizing you're like, huh. So we're into this. You're highly analytical. There is no doubt about it. If you're able to crunch the numbers, figuring out behavioral analysis at that level to figure out to assist police departments, doing those kind of things, it makes sense in my mind that the wild child stuff, because I used to tell people all the time, I recruited for the Marine Corps for 12 years, that, people, when I first started on recruiting, they'd be like, the Army's your biggest competition. These kids are going to, and I used to tell people after about 6 months, I was like, Army has no competition with me when it comes to recruiting. Neither does the Navy. The kid who wants to join the Army and the Navy is not coming in my office. He may walk in once in a blue moon. The kid who's walking into my office is also the kid that's walking into the Air Force's office.
Yeah.
And people would say, well, that doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Because in people's minds, from a physical standpoint, physical challenging standpoint, standards, you're going to go join the Marine Corps. Boot camp's 13 weeks long.
It's the same reason why if you heard I was a base jumper, you'd automatically say I was not going to college, and it's the same
exactly.
Stuff. But the one thing the Army does so well is they take their best leaders and they put them in training positions, right? So oh God, yeah. So you take the head of TRADOC, you take the head of the National Training Centers, they make at least 3-star. TRADOC makes 4-star, but they make at least 3 stars, right? So General Cone that I used to work under as a 1-star made 4, and he's at National Training Center. You will find nobody in the Navy that's in the training environment that's going to make a 4-star.
Oh, I would agree with that.
It's crazy.
That guy needs to be working.
He needs to be out like working, right? But the Army's like, no, we'll put him training. But I don't know, industry, like my company, you'd put the smartest person on training. You put them, I'm on recruiting, right? So I love recruiting. So I go out there and I tell people like, hey, if you could pass me, you could get past recruiting, and I'm not going to ask you standard questions. Like, how you define time is something I ask all the time. And someone tells me it's a second. And I'm like, well, that's really crappy. I was like, is it the same second for someone that's giving birth? Or is it the same second for someone jumping off a building? Or is it the same, and it's like,
see, I do recruiting.
Like if I ask you a question, just try to think big and don't think like the sheep, because it's not what I'm thinking.
See, I tell you, because we're making left turns right now, folks. We're into the left. We're in the left lane. We're making left turns.
We'll keep coming back.
See, no, I do staffing. I do recruiting all day long. And the question that always messes people, I always ask people, what are your needs out of your employer? What are your goals in your next position? Now, the one that always, what really messes them up though? What do you desire out of your next employer? And I always tell them, I'm like, desires could be anything from, I want a job where they have beanbag chairs in the break room, or they're going to send me to seminars to get better. I can't tell you how many times I talk to people and they go, well, I've never thought about that.
Yep.
You sure?
Because that gets to grit. That gets to what they're willing to work hard for.
Well, look,
That's huge.
Anybody who listens to this, and I meant to say this towards the beginning, and I'll say it right now. We just had our biggest download week for the Above the Bar podcast. We had a 63 download day and over 135 downloads this week. In the podcast world, in the day to day, you might say that's nothing. In the podcast world, that's huge. We talked about it last week that Spotify said there was 1.2 million podcasts, and I can't remember if it was 2020 or 2021. Of those in the last 90 days, there was only 30% of that was still active, and most podcasts don't go past 10 episodes. This is episode 95 or 96.
Yes.
So we're doing this thing, but I bring this up because you're talking about that question. I love that question. How do you define time? I ask people, what do you desire out of your employer? Because no one ever quits it. You have never quit a job a day in your life. I tell this to people all day long. You have never quit a job. You have left employers and bosses, and you've left cultures. But you have never
you're so
quit
on
a job.
You've
never quit a job.
Favorite talk. So like one of the things that
I talk culture all the time.
Yeah, one of the things I can talk about because it closed down, but I was doing this predictive analysis stuff, and then I ended up getting a call, to go interview for a job, and it was for what was called the Strategic Studies Group. It's like the Navy's highest think tank. They helped plan the war in the Pacific in World War II. And so I went over there and interviewed, and at the time I had something bad on my record from base jumping, and so they were kind of embarrassed to bring me in, and I ended up getting the gig. So I worked for 2 years for a think tank, and one of the years we worked on culture type issues where we were trying to revolutionize the Navy personnel system, right? And we had senior leaders from all 5 services. Now there's 6, but there's 5 then. And
Space Force.
But
I wonder if they'll bring me back. I will come back to Space Force and be a recruiter for you. If you call me Space Force.
If they'll let someone 41 years old, I'll come into the Space Force. That sounds awesome. But yeah, we handled Navy revolutionizing that, and then we handled expeditionary operations in the year 2030. So it was like culture came up so much because it's so important. So when you have a culture that's allowing, pulling people to 20 years in retirement, and this is going to be one hell of a rabbit hole, so don't go down this.
I retired after 20 years.
And then it's going to go away. I can almost promise this 20-year retirement in all services is going to go away. And then the culture is going to be absolutely rattled. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because right now you bonus people and you just promise them that when they get 20, they can retire and they can double dip or they can just leave. And that's not happening. And then on top of that, you throw in E2s and E3s that are under the poverty line, right? And they're not allowed to use WIC and not allowed to use these other issues.
Yes.
The military in general is in big disheveled state right now.
But this isn't
it's going to take it's going to take leadership, and I'm not the one that's doing that.
I can promise you right now, and we can definitely get into this rabbit hole for a moment. There is, and I've said this for years, and I'm going to give this to you because you're one of the few people that could probably put it in the hands of somebody and go, ain't this some shit? Every young service member suffers from separation anxiety.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And I used to tell people, and they'd be like, you're crazy. I'm like, listen to me. You take anyone between the ages of, I was 17 when I went to boot camp. You take people between the ages of 17 to 22, average age. You send them to boot camp. They have spent their entire lives being told that they're special, that they're loved, that someone gives a shit about them. Any of those things. Here's an old Marine for you right there. One of my closest friends, Ray. Love you, brother. Ray's got a hell of a story, I'll tell you.
You're so right.
So they spend their entire lives being told they're loved and they're special. You then send them to some form of boot camp, whether it be Marine Corps for 13 weeks or Air Force for like 6 hours and a margarita or whatever it is. I'm not sure what they do. And you send them off to these places, but the entire time they're told you ain't shit, you suck, your family sucks, no one loves you. If a letter is an hour late, a day behind, you question, your worth. And then they come home. And the first thing that happens when they get home is some girl tells them or a guy now, because it's much more acceptable, tells them, I love you. I miss
Yep.
you. You're special again. So
Yep.
what are
And
they
they
going to do?
cling.
They cling. I need you to now marry me because I can
Yep.
bring you to this place where
Yep.
everyone still tells me I suck, I ain't shit, and I
I'm a
need to be
behavior
better.
guy. You're nailing it. And I
And,
I have more heart for the military than anything else. I mean, autism is very close to it, but I
right,
mean
we're going
it's
to get
that
into that.
level. It's
I don't mean to push that to the
it's
side, but
that
that's
level of whatever. Like I adore the military, and I am not I've never in my life been a hoity-toity, whatever my job is. I'll sit there and go into the enlisted bars and hang out with everybody and hear their stories and try to understand why they're in, and where's their family. And it's crazy, but we still have the world's greatest free army, free military, people
yes.
that volunteer. And if we lose that, hey, things get rough, like really rough.
Would you like to hear an unpopular statement?
Yes, I love it. Yes, anything that's not
I'm going to
across
give
following the sheep.
I'm going to give you an unpopular statement. You are currently seeing the greatest generation ever, bar none.
Okay.
And here's why. No, I take nothing against my grandfather's generation. They
I'm
fought
an
in the Great
optimist.
War. They fought the Great War and all those things, but never in recorded and unrecorded human history have you ever had a all volunteer military service knowingly
Yep.
going to war. For
Yep.
most of these guys, the ones that have started to retire, you talked about 20 years, starting this year, starting in March, you have, starting in March. No, I'm taking it back. September, you will have guys that have known nothing but
That's right.
war.
That's right.
Never in recorded human history. So when people say, the kids today, they ain't shit, they're this, that, and the other, I always say, stop. There's still that 1% of 1%
Yep.
that go off and still serve every day. Yes, they're going to complain. Yes, they're going to bitch. But understand, find me another place. My 18-year-old son can't get a fucking car loan. But when I was in the Marine Corps
Yep.
at
You
18,
could run a city in Iraq
right.
as a mayor.
Yeah, like somebody might turn around and be like, hey, Lance Corporal,
You could be on the
go to
provincial reconstruction team and handing out millions of dollars to somebody.
right.
But hey, okay, so let me tell you one story, and then I do want to get off this because I
Yeah,
think
we'll get off this.
I think
I'm
we
sorry,
got good
because
stuff
this
to
is a
talk about.
soapbox I can stay on for all day.
I know you and I need to meet in real life and sit down and talk about this for 6 hours because I'm so passionate about this. I met
I'm
a
looking for a
mom
GS
up
job.
here in Crestline that owns the local bar, who is fearful that her son was the one that fired the missile that took out the truck or the van full of innocent people recently, right? Out in Afghanistan on our withdrawal.
Okay.
These guys that are 18 to 21 that are flying our drones in the Air Force, right, are absolutely on the nose dealing with PTSD issues, on the
That's a weird thing
nose
for me. I'm
dealing
sorry,
with
that's a weird thing
everything
for
that
me.
you're talking about because they're in Vegas, they're in Riverside, they're in these places going to regular bars at night, and they have done crazy shit at day, right? Which I'm not in this world, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But it's like, but you read it about in the news, so we are doing worse things. Read Ender's Game. Like I want
Love that book.
everybody to read Ender's Game because I'm
It's an
giving a
amazing
talk
book.
about it in a couple weeks for the Navy. But this idea that you
Oh,
get
really?
someone to do something that is not, they don't think they're doing what they're doing, but they end up doing it. And at the end, you tell them, hey, you destroyed an entire planet, which by the way had billions of species on it. And then not only that, but you killed half of our planet. But we're really excited because you won the war. You won the war. It's the best thing that's ever happened to us. And then that kid's like, oh, oh God.
Right.
Oh, I don't know what to
Did you know
do.
that's on the commandant's reading list?
Oh, of course.
It's on that's on the commandant's reading list, and so is what's the other one about the bugs? The giant bugs.
Z,
The no no no
oh,
no no.
not in that series. Oh, I don't know.
You're talking about Xenophobe, and then you also have
Yeah,
Speaker of the Dead. I've read all that shit.
figured that. I've read all of them.
What's the other one though? There's a movie about it, about the giant bugs. It's got Neil Patrick Harris in it.
Oh,
Uh,
space.
fucking
Troopers, Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers is also on the
Another
Common
good
Dance
book.
reading list.
Yeah, super good book.
And that one will throw people off because that's actually a very big political book. That's
Oh
a
God,
politics
yeah.
book.
You could read any of those books and just and then
that's
what you
all
need to do is
politics.
read it as a parallel to what you're trying to solve problem wise. And then if you read it that way, it reads as a perspective. It doesn't read as a truth, right? So you could read a book as a truth, you could read it as a perspective. And
Yeah,
I
they
always read it
miss
as
it
a
on that one.
perspective.
Oh, that one they miss. The only thing they miss in that movie is they just don't give enough love to the fact that you're not a citizen unless you were in the military, and
It's not
what
free.
that means. And that's what that means to that world is
Not volunteer.
Yeah, to be a citizen, you have to join the military, and they miss that in the movie. That's the one big thing.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears because I'm telling you right now, Taylor, you and I could sit here
anywhere.
Yeah, this is like this is my wheelhouse. There's a GS somewhere out there for me where they're like, they just need to hire me. I'll go find the people that think like I do. We'll put them into think tanks. We'll get them all going. Someday you'll hide me in a bunker somewhere because I know where everyone is.
The only hope that we had for a little while was I was in that think tank. So, we at least have somebody that was like at least trying to do good.
Because I've had these conversations so many times. It is. You know what? It was frustrating as a leader when you would watch young Marines and they'd be like, I have to go away this weekend. What are you doing? I'm going to get married. To who?
Yeah. Because I need that. I need that.
Well, I'm going to be able to move off base. I'm going to be able to get extra money. Well, who are you marrying?
None of the welfare programs. So as soon as you realize
because they always tell you,
I
married staff sergeant.
You married the Waffle House, waitress, and you realize you are way under the poverty line for the house that you're living in.
Married staff sergeant, 3 kids, could barely make a mortgage payment. And what was crazy is when I was on recruiting duty, I was doing great because I got extra money. Got off recruiting duty, went back to Lejeune, could barely make mortgage payments.
Oh, I love Lejeune, except for the traffic getting in. It's a great.
Well, they've changed all that. I don't know when the last time you were there.
It's still bad.
Is it? So my stepmother still lives there. I will. Here's a crazy one for you. I will when I retire. It'll go out to Jacksonville, North Carolina, and that's where I'll die at. Is Jacksonville, North Carolina?
I love it out there.
I do.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I honestly do.
I try to explain this to young Marines. They're like, Jacksonville sucks. I'm like, hold on. What? You're 45 minutes from Wilmington. You're 2 hours from Raleigh, 2 hours from Myrtle Beach. You're on the coast. You have people that pay stupid amount of money to go to Surf City and Topsail to vacation, and you get to live there. And they're like, what? I'm like,
it's because they're being told to be there. As soon as you're told to do something, you're like, you're against it. But if you all of a sudden just got rid of that, you'd be super good.
Let's get into Burble because you and I we keep making left turns. Let's get into Burble. So I'm going to explain Burble the way I understand it.
Perfect.
I want to tell you if I'm getting it right.
This naked base jumping predictive analysis.
Burble stands for base jump.
Guy.
So Burble stands for base jumping under regular blackout legal education. Counter results. Ending
or it could just be a company focused on autism, which makes no sense.
There you go. And I think that's what's it. And but we talked about this beforehand, and I've said this many times. The young man, Jay, who wrote the music for my show, has Asperger's. He is a music savant. You can play an instrument for Jay, let him watch you play it, hand the instrument to him, and then you're going to be mad at yourself because the years upon years of practice that you put into this in watching you, Jay's better than you are.
Yep. And he just came up with it.
And he's just like, man, you suck. I'm good at this. And here's one amazing thing about Jay that I love is Jay actually, to work on his social anxieties, gets up on stage and sings his own songs that he made.
That's awesome.
He's fucking amazing. I love the kid.
That's awesome.
So tell me about Burble, what we're looking to do with Burble, and how we all can support it.
Yeah. So coming out of the think tank, I spent all this time visiting every company, and I still talk to the Facebooks and the Googles of the world. And I realized that technology is getting easier and easier to interpret. So what that means is that you're spending less and less time applying creativity to what you're seeing. So if you see a movie, or even worse, you go into augmented reality, or even worse, you go into partial reality, it's getting to the point where we're all becoming that sheep, and we're all creativity is dying, and it's because it's not open-ended the way it was in the 60s. Take Helter Skelter and take, the 60s era AM radio, right? I was raised on that with my dad, even though it was way before my generation. I was born in 80. So, but we listened to it on every car ride, and I really, it clicked with me, and it really made something matter. So when I started this company, it was basically to 5 years ago, it was basically to bring theater, which I saw as an open-ended creative experiment, bring theater into the kid's bedroom and do it in a way to where that kid or that parent can read a book. And the book is not technological. The book's a book. The book's is, I always imagine the never ending story book, right? So you have a book
I
that's
love that
really
movie.
cool, right? And then
It's the
all of a sudden the
never-ending story.
environment around you makes up the details in the story, right? Or helps you interpret the details in a way that's more magical. So my company went through a lot of hiccups to get to where it is now. And so now what we're providing is what we found through tons of efficacy testing and beta testing is partnering with neurodevelopmental centers. I briefed the California Autism Board 2 years ago. I've now partnered with the Autism Board, and I'm a startup. It's crazy. But if you take a lot of lights, thousands of LEDs, and you run lights with 5.1 sound, which means 5 big speakers, four in every corner, and a sub, and you write it in the technology that I invented called minimally defined immersion. You do it in a way that you're never showing somebody what they should think. You're never telling somebody what they should think. Autistic kids are unbelievably better off.
What do you mean?
Just in the last 2 months, I've done autism story camps for 30 families of autism. And out of those 30 kids, I've had the full range, full spectrum, like massive, massive, massive. Another
And
fun
when you
story.
say full range, that means from nonverbal through high functioning.
It's a spectrum. Yes, that's right. So you're nonverbal to it just as good. So the first 4 sessions, no one showed up, even though people booked the sessions. And I was like, man, this must suck. Like I must not be on something. And then all of a sudden, I had this one mom show up with a nonverbal autism kid that was mostly Downs, and she said, hey, if you can help him, we'll see what happens. So I started telling him a story in a 10 by 10 by 10, 1700 LED cube. And he started crawling along the behind the curtain where all the lights are. And I'm praying to God, like, please don't electrocute this autistic kid,
That's
because
horrible.
it is such a prototype, right? But it's in public. It's sitting at the Riverside Youth Innovation Center, and over 25 minutes, he just like slowly worked his way around, never destroyed anything. Came out, eventually ran across the street, took the whole staff to go get him. But the mom came back and was like, "I am mind blown." She was crying, and she's like, "I'm mind blown that my kid has never sat still for 30 seconds." And I was like, well, I know, because we're onto something. And she said, but more importantly, you are comfortable for me to be around. I'm always embarrassed to go out with my kid. And she says all those other people that bailed on their autism story camps bailed because they don't want to be embarrassed by taking their kid in public, especially to go try out
Oh,
a new technology.
now
So
that
as
makes
soon as
sense.
as soon as she went on the board and put a Facebook post on, everybody showed up for the next so I was busy for every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday for weeks. And every kid was different, and so I'd say more than half of them showed up with full on noise canceling headphones.
Oh,
And
wow.
they would get out of the car, they would be looking at the ground, and I'd talk to the mom. I'd be like, hey, what is their therapist telling them? And they're like, they're not allowed to see lights and sounds. It stresses them out, and we have to work on bringing them down and all this stuff. And I was like, well, that's what this is, but it's designed to be calming and create attentiveness. And so I would tell, oh God, I think the numbers, I got to remember the numbers. 92% of full spectrum autism kids will sit through an hour of storytelling.
Really? Now,
An
what is
hour
now what?
storytelling.
So an hour of your storytelling or hour of storytelling in general?
Me reading stories and the environment making up the details.
So
But
now I'm curious about the LEDs for a second. Stay with me for a second. Now, is this just LEDs that are just changing, or are they So if you
Yes.
say, "Hey, they're in a field," it looks like a field out of LED
Nope.
lights.
So yeah, you're right on what makes this good. So if I just went to the Van Gogh immersive experience with my kid the other day, and you go in something like that. There's projectors in every wall, and you're in the exact environment that you're supposed to be in, right? So your brain all of a sudden stops using two hemispheres to interpret. It starts using one because it sees what it's supposed to be thinking about, so it automatically starts paying attention to the audio and starts thinking about the words. So what we decided to do in theater, you don't show anybody anything, or you do in a very minorly way. We do it even less. So I've invented a technology, and we've patented this, that I can control thousands of LEDs in a single line, and I can basically run them through walls, and I could run it off a Raspberry Pi. So I can basically, like, the product that I'm selling to the autism community is going to be a full blown tent that goes over the bed of the kid to help them fall asleep and stay asleep, and it's going to be in the hundreds of dollars, like below $500.
Now,
And
is
that's
that an
because,
issue in that community? The falling asleep and staying asleep?
yeah, average autistic kid sleeps 2 hours a night.
Oh wow, I had no
So
idea.
imagine the parent that's an entrepreneur, or imagine the parent that's going to work. It compounds fast. So yeah, what the most magical experience I had out of these 30 kids was someone pretty senior in the autism community brought their 13-year-old, and he came in with headphones, and she said that he was completely told not to be around flashing lights. He loved the full hour, and at the end of it, I said, I am getting a sense that you have a special power, and I'd like to see if it's true.
What
And
do you
he
mean?
says, yeah. So I said, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. I had a story. It was about a 20-minute story. It was for adults. It cusses, it kills people. Really dark sounds, really dark lights. Um, but basically, I said, I'm going to walk you through the cues of it, which was about 38 cues. And I said, just don't say anything. I just want you in your head to make up a story. And at the end of it, I want a 15-minute story, and I want to see what you come up with. So I had the GoPro working on the top with nice sound and everything. So I ran the cues, and he just, knowing he had an assignment, he was just like in it. And at the end of 15 minutes, he told me this story, and I matched it up against the cues. He hit every single cue.
So
So
he
I
never
called.
heard your story. He just saw the lights.
Nope. And then because he's autistic, he was very autistic. He kept telling the story. So like the whole time in the parking lot, his mom was crying because his whole life he was told don't be around lights and sounds, and now all of a sudden she saw it the same way I saw it. Even before she knew that he matched every single cue, she knew that
Wow.
he locked in on something that was based on this. He asked to turn the volume up. He wanted to actually interpret it in a way that was loud, so I turned it max. The walls were shaking; it was so loud. And then at the end of it, he walked it through. I looked back at the video, and all 36 or whatever cues it was, he hit every single one with a story. I could not
Wow.
do that. You could not do that.
No.
Nobody on this podcast listening could do that. But this autistic kid that's been told to stay away from lights and sounds can. So it's like,
Wow.
what the hell?
So
And that was
and that's
that
why you
was
say think
only in
different.
looking at 30 kids, right? So the whole point is, we all need to think different. And then on top of it, we need to figure out why we think different. And you're going to touch on this. And I have audio processing disorder, which is holding up kids in kindergarten, and literally what society does when you think different is they put you in a different class, right? They do
Mhm.
it on the high side and the low side, right? High
Right.
side, they put you in AP and they put you in gate. Low side, they put you in SDC, and
Well, you're in
you
my
can't
age
operate.
group. You're in my
Yeah.
age group. We called them. I hate to say it. They were brainiacs and they were sped eds.
Yeah, that's right. The
Eh,
short bus, right? The short
right.
bus people
Eh,
go over here,
right.
and the brainiacs go over here. And the problem with that is all the normal quote people are the ones that are fucked.
Yeah.
They're the ones that honestly will never experience anything other than what every other person experiences. Those
Mhm.
other two groups have the opportunity to do something special, but that normal group won't give them the opportunity. And you
To
read about
control.
this. That's right. You read about this all the time. You get the right autistic kid in the right job. This was a business review, Harvard Business Review article today. So everybody can look it up. I can send it to you. But if you get the right autistic kid in the right job, you're going to have 150% performance in the job. Well, yeah, no shit. You get the right everybody. My dad was special ed, so you get the right kid that's dealing with downs or dealing with those kind of things, and you get them in a company that's maybe putting a bolt on a screw or bolt on a washer, over and over and over again, and they're coming out completely engaged. Every other person you put on that job, they're doing half the bolts to washers, and they're coming out pissed off and doing drugs.
Right. How are you going to lead me to do this? Well, I used to I talk about this all the time. It's probably now been a couple of years since I saw it, but Silicon Valley has seen this years ago and started to change their process for job interviews,
Yep.
realizing that many people on the spectrum, like we're saying here, think different. This is a positive, folks. If you
It's
know
so
somebody in
positive.
that world, they that think different. Jay thinks about music different. You know, his ability to do that. Taylor, he has and I know I keep messing it up. Auditory perception,
I have to think about auditory processing disorder.
processing. Taylor says, "Hey, he's got that." We don't realize we've added to the list.
Yeah,
If you
well,
really
I,
think
I
about
think
it,
you're gaining this. The ADHD, the ADD medication. I say it in my business plan. We're raising money for Burble, and I say in the business plan that when you're going to medicate, go to a doctor or do therapy, there may be a better way if you could figure out what you
it's tough.
actually need. Right. But it's super tough. It's easier to
I deal with
medicate.
it.
And I was seriously medicated for a year. And it's like I did nothing useful. It was like even easier to follow the sheep in front of me because I was medicated.
That's a tough one. That's a whole nother conversation as a parent because I have a son who is in. I have two sons that are in. One that's in college level classes in his senior year. Another one that's been in AP level classes since not AP, but he's been in advanced classes since he was in third grade. But the
Yeah.
same I deal with the one that's been doing it since he was in third grade. I deal with his behavior doesn't match what they want. And I'm telling you, if you're a teacher and you're listening to this, you're going to hate me in a minute. I'm going to educate you in a second. I'm going to educate teachers for a minute.
And
Can
I'm
I
probably
educate
gonna
teachers? Can I
I'm
educate
probably
teachers
gonna
for a second, Taylor?
pile on
I,
this.
I don't know anyone on this planet, myself included. I guarantee you, Taylor's on this page. Those of you that are listening, the hundreds that will download this, none of us like to go home and do our job at our home. Please don't be upset at my child when you give him work to do at home after he just spent 7 to 8 hours at work with you and expect them to do another 2 to 3 hours of work at home. And when they get upset, because guess what? Guess what I just did all day? I just went to work all fucking day.
Yep.
You know what I don't want to do? Math that you don't teach right anymore.
Yep.
I don't want to come home and have to console a child who's stressed out that he's got 2 to 3 hours worth of homework and can't understand when I'm going, bro, I'm sorry they gave it to you. You got to finish your job. It's your work. You got to do it. Can't understand it because in my mind, I'm going, he's got to graduate. That's what's
Yep.
important.
I
So,
caught my kid the other day saying, "Hey Siri, what's 397 times 3?" And I walked out there and I said, "Hey Tessa, you are on the right thing, that what you should be doing, but you've got to demonstrate to me that you could do it right first.
right.
And then I will absolutely let you ask Siri all the time."
Absolutely.
Because I've told this story forever. Like when at the Navy lab, when I get all the high school teachers, high school principals to come in and talk to how they can work with us, I run the robotics programs that they all have and all this stuff. And I told them, the way you run math in college is designed to be cheated on. Is literally like as a behavioral pattern analysis is the easiest thing. It's like a 1 out of 10 in terms of skill required.
I
And
cheated through
and so
college.
I took advantage of it. So I partied my ass off in college, and I would not study at all the day before. And then, you got a 1-page cheat sheet. So you write down the exact problems you need. And maybe you find out the problems because you know the TA, or maybe you sit next to somebody that studied, or there's all these things you do. And guess who becomes the guy that's running the damn Navy's predictive analysis is because it's not the guy that followed all the rules that understands the math perfectly. We know where to put those people, but they're not the ones driving change, cultural change. They're not the ones starting new companies that are going to, hopefully be billion-dollar companies that are going to change for the better the way that the world operates. It's like we've got to teach these students to do this. Common Core was designed to be open-ended. It was based on Vietnam-based Vietnam math, which is Singapore math. Sorry, Singapore math. Vietnam still has good math, but Singapore math was the best in the world, right? But what they were doing was they're teaching people that it was story-based. And so we took that element and brought it into Common Core. And I met the architects when I was on the think tank. And you end up taking this amazing capability that just says, hey, I don't need to know the answer 6, but I need to give you at least an understanding of how you'd get to it if you knew how to do math. And then it pushes you forward. And we took that and we said, but wait a minute, we have the teachers unions and we have No Child Left Behind. And if you think of No Child Left Behind, everybody's watched Price is Right, right? Price is Right has that thing when you have to win the car and they're like, okay, push the button. And it's like, and they're like, hit the button. And they're like, nope, it's not in that number. You lose. That's No Child Left Behind, right? So the lowest guy gets to drive the meter, not the highest guy, the lowest guy. So if you have 80% of the class above the highest guy, they're screwed. And so this stuff came out of what happened. And so you end up with Common Core, which should have been beautiful, ended up being so nasty and horrible. My kid is struggling with it. Right now, my kid's getting D's in math. And so I have to go to Kumon, and I'm paying a lot of money, and I'm starting next week. And her dad's a mathematician. It blows my mind.
See, and I'm the same way. I never struggled.
Sorry, you got me on something I was really passionate about.
This is part of the whole verbal creativity is finding ways to think different, to approach things different. And I know John very well. John and I don't think he knows that how much I know. John has a child who deals with some of these issues we're talking about. And John
Less is more.
John is one of the most he's going to look up, and I'm going to say it again, Burble, BURBLE, creativity.com. Make sure you check it out. John's going to be the guy who's going to go on there, Taylor. He's going to look at every bit of it. He's probably already Googled you about 100 times. He knows what size socks you wear and what color your underwear are right now. That's John.
We all wear the same size socks, surprisingly, but
right. And that's another one of those things. We all fit into the same size socks. How the hell does that work? But
that's to our point. That's the sheep thing. We all have the same size socks.
That's it. But so as we're moving forward in Burble, and trust me, I've got children that are extremely intelligent boys that I sit down with, and they explain things to me, and they learn things off of YouTube videos and tell me things that I'm going. Even my 4-year-old, I've watched my 4-year-old sitting there watching videos about gravity and relativity and all kinds of shit. And I'm going, why is my 4-year-old watching videos about electrons and neutrons? And he loves it. But you guess what accent those videos are in?
Australian.
Indian.
Oh God, yeah. When I talk about the powerhouse countries, India is one of my 3, right? You got Russia, China, India, and it's for good reason. I mean, they are rock stars in some areas.
Yeah.
Just like every country. But yeah, fascinating. It's good that we're studying, gravity and space, and I'm an engineer, and one of the things that I tell my kid is science is about changing what you think is truth today and making it not truth tomorrow, right? And
that's a great way of looking at it.
The whole point of it is that there's nothing we're going to discover that will stand the test of time. And me and a bunch of my mathematicians, kind of debate this. Is it 100 years? Is it 1,000? What year is it that nothing, in terms of rules and science stands the test of time? But it's hard. Right now we just learned that gravity is not constant, right? So they spun the electron, I think it's electron in this case, all the way around, and all of a sudden it gets back to the gate. CERN, there you go.
CERN?
It gets back to the gate, and twice now they've shown that it gets back faster, and everybody's like, "What? You know what that is for all of us nerds? Jump drive. It is jump drive."
But wait a sec. So if the electron's getting back faster, because I just recently was
paper.
I was just recently. God, we're gonna nerd out for a fucking moment.
We're gonna nerd out.
So
this is how fast. This is how fast it's going. Right? It's going from here to here, and all of a sudden, this does this.
And for the audio side,
and it goes from here to here.
He's got a piece of paper, and we're talking about folding space at this point. We're talking about folding space.
But now, hold on. Drive.
But now, my whole thing is, I just recently learned this, and I didn't realize it, that the light speed as a definition, I always just considered it as light. I never considered it as this is the fastest speed that matter as in of itself can go. This is it.
That's right.
So, but what you're saying,
electron, proton, but they could go faster.
That's what I'm about to ask. What you're saying is that if light speed is the fastest speed that any matter can go, if these electrons went faster than what they've ever been recorded in, that means they're going faster than light speed.
That's right. Well, no, because that's an interesting conversation. I'd be going 60 miles an hour if I take a shortcut and get there faster than you can going a long way. Right. So we're still going the same speed.
Folding. We're getting into folding.
Yeah. But I could get there shorter. But then we also got to remember, theory of relativity and a whole bunch of other stuff. The faster you go and nearer speed of light, the slower time goes. So now you're and sci-fi does this well, right? Like somebody that's going the speed of light is only 30 years old and they've been on the road for 80 years. Their daughter that was just born is now older than them, right? And it's
gotcha.
Fascinating. But my whole point is science changes so often that it's really about chasing science and always being creative, always being innovative, coming up with the thing you want to test, the scientific method that you're ready to test.
Thank you.
If we all start thinking the same, and literally this is my worst statement right now, if we all believe science is fact, we are fucked. Like so beyond, because nobody will ever question the thing that is actually happening, right? Because they won't take it to a lab and they won't see if that's possible. And my whole master's degree on fluid mechanics was on dispersion modeling around buildings, right? So you take buildings, you have a airflow that goes over it, the wind, and all of a sudden you say, okay, it goes around the building in certain ways. Well, the government had a model that was based on dirty bomb modeling, which basically said that, hey, if a dirty bomb happened in LA, who would we extricate first, and who would we do last, and who do we expect to be dead, and all this stuff. And what I ended up discovering was if you have two buildings kind of turned a certain way to the flow, you end up with like these dueling vortices that go behind the building. This is like a big, computational fluid dynamics problem, but no one else had ever shown it before. And the problem with the same particle sitting in the same space for a lot of time is that other elements affect it, right? Like radiation on the asphalt, heat on the asphalt, other things start affecting. And all of a sudden that particle that was really low to the ground is all of a sudden going up, right? So from a fluid mechanics perspective, it's not super exciting that you got swirling vortices, but from a dirty bomb model, it makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's monstrous.
Monstrous. So I got called out to Los Alamos like really quick in college. Like, holy crap, we need this guy to come. And we changed all the models, right? And basically the way we changed all the models is they're not good. None of them are good. So it's like, it's crazy. Like, keep exploring. Nobody knows the answers.
Let's see what Derek's got here. On the mathematics, I found when I was in school, we had to show how we came up with the answer. Didn't matter how. With my children, they have to show in a specific process, which I think limits. I absolutely agree with you, Derek. Like,
Derek,
I deal with that. It. And here's where I've really screwed up. I tried teaching my kids how I do it.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm like, why don't you just add this way? And they're like,
my kids are
I
like,
don't know how to do that.
They're like
Don't know how to
that.
do it.
They're like that. That's you can't do that. I'll
Don't know
never
how to do
forget
it.
my son who's
Everything's
18.
base 10 today, and that is beyond stupid. Like so little of the world is actually in base 10. So when you teach all of kids how to do things by zeros, tens, hundreds, thousands, right? And you teach them to do the math with the blocks and all this stuff.
Mhm.
The problem is they're going to get to college and they're going to go to base 7. And the whole way they learned falls apart.
See, and that's this
We
whole
didn't teach any future mathematicians. We taught a whole
no,
bunch of like, but one last thing, and I'll shut up. I promise.
no, you're not.
But
No,
the
you're
whole
not allowed to
point of
shut up.
school is about citizenship, and we all have to know this. Like,
Yes.
high school, at least GED is supposed to be you're the perfect citizen, or at least you're the average citizen. You're capable of doing your taxes. You're capable of going to work. You're capable of paying your bills. You're capable of voting. Right? You're not a dumbass when you vote. And the problem is, I think we've lost that. Like we've never redefined the what a citizen
That
should be.
well, that's a whole thing in and of itself. I'm a bit. All right, I'll get on my political
Hey,
soapbox
you
for a
wanted
minute
a bar talk. You wanted a
well,
bar talk.
I'll get on
This
my
is how
political
bar
soapbox.
talks go.
Absolutely, I told you this is how it goes. I'll get on my political soapbox for a minute, only because it's my show. I can do what the hell I want to do.
I'm not going political.
I'm a big fan of a guy here in New York named Larry Sharp. He's got a podcast. He's got some other stuff. But the biggest thing that he talks about is right on in line with what we're talking about. Larry was a Marine. He says that in New York, we spend $33,000 a year on average on education. And here's my whole thing. If I told you I had a $400,000 education and wasn't qualified to run a fucking fryer, what would you say to me? You would
Your
lose your
education
shit.
sucked.
You would lose your shit and be like, wow. So here's the thing. So Larry makes it real clear. Larry says we should turn around in the state of New York, which has this, we have, what the hell are they? I can't even think of the diplomas that they have a special name for these extra special diplomas. Regent diplomas, which now they're not even doing Regent exams because of COVID and everything else. So him and I, he has this whole thing where he says basically we should turn around and at 10th grade, kids should graduate from high school. That means they're only doing core studies, math, science, English, social studies, the things you were talking about that are.
Yeah, then pick something that's specific to helping something.
It gets better. He's a genius. Here's where he's a genius. And if it should go around the world, those of you that listen to this, please share this with everyone. Share this idea with everyone. He then says, everyone gets $20,000 a year to go towards your next level of education. If you want to go to college, but maybe you're not ready for college yet, you have $20,000 a year for 2 years of prep school.
Yep.
If you're ready for college, you now have $20,000 a year to go to college.
Yep.
If you know that you're never going to go to college, but you're really into the trade, you're hands-on.
To start your trade.
You have 20 grand to go to a trade school.
Yep.
Maybe you're the kid that says, I'm just going to go to work. You can go to work, but that money is there for 5 years.
It's debatable. That's at least 50% of our population. So we shouldn't force everybody to college, right?
Right.
Because you can make just as much.
Hold on. Let me finish, Taylor. It gets better. It gets better. So now you got these other kids that maybe they don't want to go to college. They have 5 years to use this money. They've still got a high school diploma.
Yep.
Here's where it really gets amazing. People said to him, well, that's stupid. We don't have all these prep schools and we don't have all these trade schools. No shit. Because now once you do this, you just created industry because now we have to build trade schools. All the trade unions have to do this. Oh, wait a sec. We don't have prep schools. We now have to create prep schools. All these teachers now can go work for private industry and debate their own money and their own wages. No longer can we have somebody who's a tenured teacher who realizes you can't do shit with me. Now I have to actually go do it. Holy shit.
Yep.
You created an entire industry. And we tried to do, he wanted to do this here in New York to basically make New York into the hub of the country to where you're going to find your tradespeople. You're going to find your tradespeople here. And you know what people did here? They voted for Cuomo. They voted for the guy who, is the epitome of what the Me Too movement was trying to stop. Oh, and by the way, if y'all didn't know it, all my international viewers and listeners, they dropped all the charges in New York against him.
Oh man.
Everyone. So I got to stand on that one for a minute. It drives me nuts.
No,
Larry
awesome.
Sharp's idea is so perfect in my mind, because people don't realize our education system is based on an agro system, which we don't have anymore. It's based on an agro system. My children are not needed in the summer months to prepare for the winter months to pull crops. I don't need my kids to plant for me in April. That's not a thing. That's not a part of my life anymore. Please.
It's so good. It's so,
it drives me bonkers.
It's true though. I've got a master's degree in fluid mechanics. I've got a pilot's license. I've got a whole bunch of other licenses and flying in the air. But then all of a sudden I start a business and I go from a LLC to a gym. Yes.
We're base jumping the sled now, folks.
Oh my God. Jim's a base jumper, and he built my a whole bunch of stuff that's in front of me right now. So, and all of a sudden I start a company and I go from an LLC to an S Corp to a C Corp. I have learned more than I ever would have learned in any school. I don't read business books because they are so far gone from what I'm learning. Like if I were to read a whole book and literally take the 10 hours it's going to take, I would highlight 2 sentences that may minorly change what I'm doing. You get to a point where you're literally, and I honestly believe I'm going to have $1 billion company. It gets to the point where you're going to be the next one to write the book, but then who's going to learn from the goddamn book? The best thing to do is go do it.
Just do the shit.
Just go do it. It's crazy.
If you're $1 billion company, I would like to be your director of staff of talent.
How about we just do this every year and we start figuring out, how to
look? We've already solved all the problems,
but maybe just like inspire the world to do something.
Well, that's the thing.
Go get arrested.
There's the name of our new There's the name of Taylor's new podcast. We're going to call it "Go Get Arrested." That podcast name alone will make him famous. Just a podcast called "Go Get Arrested," and Taylor can have one every time. Entrepreneurs who have different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching problems. Get some of those guys. Who's the one? I don't know the businessman's name. I love his videos where he's like, everyone wants to tell you congratulations for getting pregnant, but nobody wants to ask how many times you got fucked before you got there. Like that guy, I think he's hilarious. There's the other one that keeps popping up on my IG. A good man is not a safe man. He's somebody who has his whatever it is under control. And I get that. That goes back to in the military, we've always had the saying, good men stand ready to do bad things at night while you sleep. It's along those lines. I can't remember how it goes. But I love this. I've lost your sound. Taylor, no sound. What happened?
I just watched We Were Soldiers again, a couple days ago. And that first platoon commander, company commander, I'm not sure what he was, company commander. He as soon as the fight takes off, he chases off some Vietnamese guys that were in the bushes, and he ended up losing like 90% of his guys, right? So it's like it's this balance. You don't want to be the guy that just runs full fucking speed into the problem when you don't know what you're talking about. But then again, your psyche kind of takes care of that. It says, "Hey, I'm uncomfortable." Should be. You have to have some connection to reality in order to do anything, I think, that is going to change the world. But then you have to be so disconnected from reality to change the world or to create the new science. So it's this thing that I've been, and I'll be super honest about this. I've been in therapy my whole life, but the last 4 years I've been with the same therapist, and I see her every week. And it's been that way for a long time, and I need it. I'd lose my shit if I wasn't in therapy. But she's helped me bring out this idea that I have to balance crazy with dorkiness, and as much as crazy and dorkiness work together, and all dorky life is astronomically stupid. An all crazy life gets me stuck on drugs on the corner of the street, right? It's not good either. But when these two things work together, I end up doing good things for the Navy, and I'm doing great things for Burble, and I'm helping community get better and all this kind of stuff. So we all have to find this balance and figure out, like what I would like to think everybody has a dichotomy of things that drive them. It might be family and it might be football. That could be one thing, right? That's perfect. It could be wrestling and it could be family, but then you have to balance it, and you got to take your inspirations and and everything that's driving you to be a wonderful human, and you got to figure out, all the good things should come out of the two up here somewhere. And it's taken me a long time to figure this out.
Oh God, if you're into therapy, that's like a whole nother thing. Like I believe in therapy addicts. I believe in therapy addicts. Do you know what that is?
Derek's got it. Oh yeah.
Therapy addicts. Like, and Derek, you're absolutely right. Trade school should be encouraged.
Yeah, Derek's on it with everything he's writing so far.
100%. I know people just like you that make stupid money. They're in the trades. I always
Uh-oh. It's not me. You there?
Are you back?
Yes, you're back.
All right. I don't know what the hell happened there. Hoping you held it. Did you hold the fort down?
I was I talking to people?
I'm hoping you held the fort down. I'm hoping you held the fort down.
Probably not.
I'm hoping you held the fort down the entire time. I have no idea what's going on. I ended up having to like jump to my phone because to grab it. So as we're getting this whole
Nathan,
thing,
I'll do that.
yes, crazy and dorky works. Look, Nathan, you suck at fantasy football. Let's leave it at that. Leave that shit right there. You suck at fantasy football. Maybe God, and if hopefully I don't go to hell for this. Nathan, you're on the spectrum of suck. Nathan, you're on the spectrum of sucking at fantasy football. Can I say that? Am I okay to say that?
I think
Taylor,
you can.
Sure.
I feel bad for Nathan though. I mean, that's harsh.
God, just so you know, I not only did I win my fantasy football league, so here's the whole thing, and we got to get ready to put a bow on this thing.
It's funny. I don't watch any sports. So when people say, "Oh, not at all,"
oh God,
I don't even have TV.
Really?
I mean, I have a TV, but it's connected to my Xbox, and I watch Netflix and play video games. Is all that we do.
What's your Netflix show?
We've watched most of them for kids stuff.
Did you watch Witcher?
Oh my God, yeah. I just got off. I mean, you can see my massive scar in my shoulder. Like I just got off 8 months of total reconstruction of my shoulder. So So I haven't been, here's my base rig. I haven't been jumping for 9 months, and so I'm getting back this week. So I'm just finally getting back to the things I love.
Nice. Nathan, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Hey, you don't even do it yourself. I beat your ass in fantasy football. You suck. Moving on. You suck. Moving on. You suck. I love Nathan. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hook you up with Nathan so you can go on Nathan's show also.
Yeah, hook me up with anybody. That's perfect.
But Cobra Kai. Like I watched the first 2 seasons of
I
Cobra
just
Kai.
started watching that. I'm on 1 season in right now.
I watched the first 2 seasons and then I was kind of like, okay.
Witcher, I love. It is
Witcher
right
is
on
amazing.
Everything you and I have been talking about is like right Witcher. It's like keep it extremely like not what you expect, but at the same time,
Witcher is amazing. Love.
I'm reading the books right now. I'm on the third book.
I just bought my mom the books. I just bought my mom the first book because she got into it.
Yeah, I read the first book 2 weeks ago. The second book last week. I'm about a book a week.
So, but I love comic books, and I'm a big Dune fan. I love the 1984 Dune.
Read that.
If you can get through the first 100 pages of the original Dune book, you're a badass reader. I suck at I couldn't do it. But
it's like Atlas Shrugged. Like if you want to read that, you've got to start like a third of the way in because it's like.
But what's amazing is how there's a comic book series that just came out, House Atreides.
Yes.
House Atreides. I will tell anyone who's watched Dune, folks, if you're still hanging with us, I love you to death. We're like an hour and 36 minutes into this thing.
Into ridiculousness.
We're like on a whole nother thing. House Atreides, reading the comic book series, House Atreides makes the new Dune movie that much better because House Atreides spends almost the entire time they keep referencing the bull. And if you watch the new Dune movie, they constantly have the bull head up. They show the bull statue. That's
but they
all
probably
about.
Don't connect it. They probably just
they don't. That's the only thing I'll ding them on is they don't do a good job of explaining to you why this bull matters. I think they make one reference to it. If you read the book House Atreides, you find out about Paul's father, Duke Atreides, who ended up going to the planet Ix. I don't remember how they pronounce it. He goes there. He sees what happens there, why that planet gets taken over. His father is the one who is killed by the bull, and it's actually his grandmother that sets
so you don't get that
up.
unless you read.
You have to have read that because when you see it and you see what the bull is, you realize like that's the bull that killed Paul's grandfather.
Well, now you're talking to the power of story, which is exactly why people ask me like, why did I start an autism story company? It's because it's going to be like, it's story, right? Story is so just massive. And like, as soon as I get done with the autism product, I'm building a kid's reading product, right? So imagine your kid comes home with their accelerated reading book that they're not reading. And then they come home and they go into their room and there's a tent there and they take their book into the tent. They don't have their phone out. They just take their book into their tent. The tent automatically lights up. They start reading from wherever they are. That tent feeds the details that goes along with the book or enhances what they're imagining that's going along with the book. And then at the end, it asks them a couple questions about what they understood about the book and then sends an email to their teacher saying they read it and they comprehended it.
I love that.
I'm going to have this product in late 24.
Well, I will tell you, my 12-year-old that just went to bed has read more books in his lifetime at 12 than I've read in my whole life.
See, that's amazing. My kid struggles.
Oh God. You know what it was? I gave him books to read beforehand. We got to put a bow on this. We're starting to lose. We got to put a bow on this. Do not log off because you and I will talk afterwards.
Okay.
As always, folks, for those of you that stuck around with us for the long haul here, I know Taylor is on that Scott Sakura level. If I let this shit go, this could be 2.5 hours down the road and no one would know what happened. Nathan, I would have to look into that. I don't know if Hebert, how Star Wars attaches to Dune, but I wouldn't be surprised if George Lucas read Dune, Hebert's book,
Oh yeah,
and kind of gleaned it from it, because Hebert's book, Dune, the first 100 pages, if you've never read that thing, is nothing but they made a fucking encyclopedia of Dune to try to help you understand what is going on in that world. Because it's
one of the
so,
first Apple IIe books that I had.
Was it?
You know, oh yeah, it was
Wow.
a game that you could get on Apple IIe.
Wow, it's just so crazy. And Anthony, thank you so much for hanging with us. Check out Burble Creative, BURBLE creativity.com. Take the time, look at it. If you know a kid who thinks different, you may not realize it. The world is different today, folks. Those kids are our opportunities. I didn't get to say it during the meat and potatoes of the show, but I want to say we now see those kids as having something different. 20, 30, 40 years ago, those kids went into the workforce. They were just the awkward kid. They were just a different kid.
Oh, yeah.
And they made things happen. Now we want to label them. Now we want to know that they're different.
Labels suck.
Yeah. Save labels for the back of my soda, so I know what the hell I'm drinking. Not for people.
Nope.
Check out Burble Creativity. It's Nathan, when you smile, your heart slows down, Nathan. It's just too much activity for your brain all at once. I can't say it enough. Make sure you're checking it out. If you're liking what you're seeing here, make sure you're going and checking us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, the Above the Bar podcast. Our Twitter is the only one that's different. That's at Above the Bar 4, because they just didn't want me to have the big long name. I got to thank some of the people that have been around for us from the long haul. The guys over at I'm trying to get my box open here. Get my box open. Trying to get over here to Punk as a Doornail. Sent us some amazing stuff. We're going to be putting out. There's a Punk as a Doornail. If you can see it on the drumstick, signed by Johnny. I've got unopened vinyl records. Dude, these are your people. The guy turned a skateboard into a guitar.
That's awesome. Yeah, the skateboarding Braille guys, I love. I talk to them all the time.
Oh,
hey, just so you know, my best friend Adam just told me that I was broadcasting the whole time you were turned off. So I apologize for anything that happened in that period of time.
Well, during that period of time, thank you, because you saved our ass. You saved my ass. I don't know what the hell happened there, but it saved me, and that's all that matters. So make sure you're checking us out. For those of you that are watching our live, make sure you go on to whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, whether it be Apple, Spotify, whatever it is. Make sure you start following. Make sure you start subscribing. That's the only way this message gets out. That's how Taylor's message gets out. That's how my message gets out. Remember, this show is about who people are, what they do, and what makes them great. Now, Taylor, as I said, you're not allowed to log off. We got to talk for a couple of moments after the show. But as I do with all my guests, you get the last word. What is it?
I really enjoyed this. This was a good time. Anybody that creates spontaneous thought, that's not afraid to take left hand turn and end up right at the same spot they started. That is how we have to all start understanding meetings should go. And the more that we create, just creative thought and propagate it into this world, the better. Go get arrested.
Alrighty. I think it's the fucking first. Alrighty, folks. Be sure to put your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.